Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kudash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of 2 Chronicles, the 33rd chapter, going into the reign of Manasseh, the son of Hezekiah, which we saw a lot of the good deeds that Hezekiah did in, turning Israel, right, the remnants of Israel and Judah back to Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, and continuing in the ways of the Lord, following after the Lord with his heart. So here we see Manasseh, the son of Hezekiah, who reigns after Hezekiah, and he has a bit of an interesting story here, right? So verse 1, Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem, but did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord Yahweh, like unto the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord Yahweh had cast out before the children of Israel. So he started to go in the ways of the heathens. For example, the customs of the heathen, whether it was sacrificing onto idols, right, or certain rituals, certain practices, all those things. Manasseh started to go in that way. For he built again the high places which Hezekiah his father had broken down, and he reared up altars for Baalim, and made groves, and worshipped all the host of heaven, and served them. So he set up places, high places were actually high points, whether mountaintops or hills, and they would set up idols over there and altars. And groves are really just like a collection of trees that you could then dedicate as like an area to go and serve, these idols and so on. So not only did he reverse the good changes that his father Hezekiah had done, but as it says here, he worshipped all the hosts of heaven and served them. So not only that includes the angels, right? You can imagine the constellations, the stars, all of those different things, right? When it comes to like the stars and the moon and so on up there. And that was the way that Manasseh went in. Also, he built altars in the house of the Lord Yahweh, whereof the Lord Yahweh had said, in Jerusalem shall my name be forever. So he built altars in the temple, obviously not unto the Lord. And he built altars for all the host of heaven in the two courts of the house of the Lord. So this was some extreme wickedness, right? I mean, building altars is one level of wickedness. Doing it in the temple of the Lord to worship idols and hosts of heaven is a different level. And he caused his children to pass through the fire in the valley of the son of Hinnom. Also he observed times, and used enchantments, and used witchcraft, and dealt with a familiar spirit. And when you go into the observation of times, it goes into soothsaying, fortune telling, using like augury, auspices, and all of that, which is just like, for example, the Romans had this method of looking inside of the liver of I think it was like a goat or something, and using that to be able to foretell certain events as to whether it would go good or bad. And of course, you have enchantments, witchcraft. Now, a familiar spirit, right? When you look into that, or a familiar, just put that in here. It's actually like a spirit, right? Like a demon or whatnot. So yeah, so it says here, in folklore and some religious contexts, familiar spirits are supernatural entities, often depicted as small animals or imps, believed to be companions or attendants of witches, sorcerers, or mediums, acting as guardians, helpers, or conduits for communication with other spiritual entities. So a familiar spirit is an actual spirit that would, you can imagine like how they depict it today as like making like a pact with a spirit, and then being able to like employ it or get some services, as you can see here, like guardian helpers, and get access to certain channels that you would need to use that spirit in order to access, right, as a medium or whatever the case is over there. It says here, origins and beliefs in Europe, in European folklore, particularly during the medieval and early modern periods, familiars were seen as supernatural beings that protected or assisted those involved in magic, divination, and spiritual practices. They were often believed to be low-ranking demons or spirits that could take the form of animals like cats, toads, dogs, or other creatures. Jumping down a bit here, you can see it says, actually, also there's another one. They were also seen as conduits for communication with other spiritual entities, such as deities or deceased ancestors. So one example that comes to mind is the Witch of Endor, and how she was able to basically be a channel of communication between the Samuel, who was dead and in the spirit world, and Saul, who was alive, but still having them be able to communicate. So now it says here, in the King James Version of the Bible, familiar spirits is used to refer to demons or mediums, and consulting them is forbidden. So there's a little bit of information about that for you, and you can do more research on that if you're interested. But these are the kinds of things, this is the way in which Manasseh was going in. As it says here, and with wizards, he wrought much evil in the sight of the Lord Yahweh to provoke him to anger. So you can imagine just how pissed off the Lord was. And he set a carved image, the idol which he had made in the house of God, of which the Most High had said to David and to Solomon his son, in this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen before all the tribes of Israel, will I put my name forever. So having known this, the location the Lord said he would put his holy name, Manasseh went and put an idol inside of the temple of the Most High. Neither will I any more remove the foot of Israel from out of the land which I have appointed for your fathers, so that they will take heed to do all that I have commanded them, according to the whole law and the statutes and the ordinances by the hand of Moses. So now you start to see the cause, right? It's like these are things that Israel does that brings those extreme judgments upon them. So Manasseh made Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem to err, and to do worse than the heathen, whom the Lord Yahweh had destroyed before the children of Israel. So imagine that. These heathen the Lord had Israel take out, so that Israel can come and take the land because of the wickedness they were doing. You had Israelites that came and surpassed that. And the Lord Yahweh spake to Manasseh and to his people, but they would not hearken. Of course, he spake by the prophets. Wherefore, and I believe Isaiah would have been around this time as well, right? From considering Isaiah was there during Hezekiah's time, he would be there during the time of Manasseh. And there is some when you read online, they say, I think it's in the Talmud, or as they like to call it, Jewish tradition, claim that Isaiah was put to death by Manasseh by way of being sawn in half. Of course, as they say, it's from the Talmud. We know what that's associated with. So, the scriptures don't say per se how Isaiah died, so we'll leave it at that. Verse 11. Wherefore the Lord Yahweh brought upon them the captains of the host of the king of Assyria, which took Manasseh among the thorns, and bound him with fetters, and carried him to Babylon. Now, some translations have this verse as the thorns, as in hooks, as in they put hooks, like a nose hook, into Manasseh's nose, and then also bound him with fetters. Fetters are like shackles of a prisoner, to where you can just barely move your feet, but you can still walk, but you can't run or escape. And some just have it, sort of as overall they bound him up, which is ultimately what they did, and then they took him as a captive to Babylon. All right, this being the Assyrians, and I believe this was during the time of Assyrian. So I pulled up some information here on Manasseh and found something interesting here. So this is the Assyrian prism, which is a physical finding. This is what it looks like. And this is from Armstrong Institute of Biblical Archaeology. As it says, Assyrian prism proves King Manasseh. And in here, it goes into, it's a record, I believe, during the time of the Assyrian king Assyrian. And it also mentions or makes reference to Manasseh. Let me read a little bit here just to get that context there. It says, the discovery of the Assyrian prism confirmed the existence of two biblical kings, one being Assyrian and one being Manasseh. In the 1927-28 excavation season at the ancient Assyrian capital of Nineveh, archaeologist Reginald Campbell Thompson unearthed the discovery of a lifetime. The Assyrian prism, the 33-centimeter tall, six-sided clay prism, dates to 673 to about 672 BCE. It describes the history of King Assyrian's reign and an account of the reconstruction of the Assyrian palace in Babylon. Within the 493 lines of cuneiform inscribed on the sides of the prism, experts found the name of another king, Manasseh Sar Alu Yahudi, or Manasseh, king of Judah. The story of Assyrian, how he became king, and his interaction with Manasseh is fascinating, and it's recorded both in the artifacts and the Bible. So I'm going to jump down to the reference, what it actually says here in relation to Manasseh, but there's some more spaghetti for your plate for those that like to doubt the validity of the scriptures. It says here, the inscription mentions two groups of subject kings, 12 from the seacoast and 10 from Cyprus, whom Assyrian ordered to contribute building materials and workers to help reconstruct Babylon, which I believe Sennacherib had destroyed. The inscription reads, quote unquote, together 22 kings of Hatti, this land includes Israel, the seashore and the islands, all these I sent out and made them transport under terrible difficulties. One of these 22 kings was King Manasseh of Judah. The clay prism contains the first extra biblical reference to Manasseh, which is to say, a reference outside of the Bible, son of Hezekiah. Another mention was made by Assyrian's son and successor, Ashur-banipal, who recorded that Manasseh, king of Judah, contributed to his invasion force against Egypt. Manasseh was the longest reigning king of Judah and ruled for 55 years, under tribute to the kings of Assyria. Let me see. Yep, I think that's just the main point there. I'm going to read down here. It says, the Assyrian prism is now on display in the library of Ashur-banipal at the British Museum and stands witness to the historic accuracy of the Bible, describing both the biblical kings Assyrian and Manasseh and illustrating Manasseh's subjugation by the Assyrian Empire. So there's a little bit of extra biblical information here concerning Manasseh, king of Judah. And I'm sure there are many other finds very similar all throughout. Continuing back in 2 Chronicles 33 and 12. So now they've taken Manasseh captive to Babylon. The Lord had that happen. It says here, and when he was in affliction, right, because he was a captive over there, probably locked up in prison somewhere. He wasn't doing too good, but he had enough time to reflect. So when he was in affliction, he besought the Lord Yahweh his God, and humbled himself greatly before the Lord, or before the God of his fathers, and prayed unto him, and he was entreated of him, and heard his supplication, and brought him again to Jerusalem into his kingdom. Then Manasseh knew that the Lord Yahweh, he was God. So the Lord had mercy on Manasseh, even with all the things he did, which goes to show you the great mercy the Lord has. So Manasseh truly repented, and you can read that in the Apocrypha, it's known as the prayer of Manasseh, which I believe that's the prayer he made while he was there in Babylon as a captive, in which the Lord had mercy on him and had him be returned back to Jerusalem. Now, after this, he built a wall without the city of David, on the west side of Gihon, in the valley, even to the entering in at the fish gate, and compassed about Ophel, and raised it up a very high height, and put captains of war in all the fenced cities of Judah. And he took away the strange gods and the idol out of the house of the Lord Yahweh, and all the altars that he had built in the mount of the house of the Lord and in Jerusalem, and cast them out of the city. So all those altars, the idol, he came back right. Came back right. He repented, So he started off in the wrong way, did a lot of wickedness, but he repented. And the Lord heard that and had mercy. And so when he came back, he made sure to take away them idols, those altars, and all of that. And he repaired the altar of the Lord Yahweh, and sacrificed thereon peace offerings and thank offerings, and commanded Judah to serve the Lord Yahweh, God of Israel. And this shows you, man, like, this is why the scriptures say the Most High is long suffering, because he never fails, right? He humbled Nebuchadnezzar. You had Darius, which believed, in the power of the Lord, having seen or having witnessed how the Lord dealt with Daniel. Same with Cyrus, even up to this guy, Antiochus Epiphanes, and he was a very vile demon. And look at his last few words before he was taken out. So nobody ever holds firm that onto their pride when the Most High brings humility, or when he humbles them. That's why the Lord is long suffering, because he knows it is with ease, and that he can hit your pain and pressure points and get you to submit very, very easily. It's just that some he'll have mercy on, some he won't. Verse 17, nevertheless, the people did sacrifice still in the high places, yet unto the Lord Yahweh their God only. So the high places that were designated, which they first were using to sacrifice onto idols, now the people, they still sacrificed on the high places, but it was onto the Most High. Now the rest of the acts of Manasseh, and his prayer unto his God, and the words of the seers that spake to him in the name of the Lord Yahweh God of Israel, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel. His prayer also, and how God was entreated of him, and all his sin and his trespass, and the places wherein he built high places, and set up groves and graven images, before he was humbled, behold, they are written among the sayings of the seers. So Manasseh slept with his fathers, and they buried him in his own house, and Amon his son reigned in his stead. Amon was 22 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 2 years in Jerusalem. But he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord Yahweh, as did Manasseh his father. For Amon sacrificed unto all the carved images which Manasseh his father had made, and served them. So this guy, Amon, comes back, doesn't learn from what his father did in the latter years. Clearly your pops was going off in the beginning, but he was humbled greatly. Manasseh comes in there, Salakia, Ammon comes in there and he's just like full steam ahead. Let's continue this wickedness. So he's basically reviving these idols, these carved images, setting them back up, worshiping them, and so on. Verse 23, and humbled not himself before the Lord Yahweh, as Manasseh his father had humbled himself. But Ammon trespassed more and more, and his servants conspired against him and slew him in his own house. So, as we've been reading through this chapter, we've seen that there have been quite a few conspiracies here to slay some of these kings. But the people of the land slew all them that had conspired against King Ammon, and the people of the land made Josiah his son king in his stead. And so now we see, well, as we're going to go into the reign of Josiah, having now seen the reign of Hezekiah, right, which came to an end, what happened with Manasseh, how he started off on the wrong path and then was humbled and repented, and the Lord had mercy on him. And now, of course, his son Ammon going in wickedness, leading up to Josiah. So this brings us to the end of the book of 2 Chronicles, the 33rd chapter. Once again, right, at this point in time, the Assyrians are still in power. Around this time, you have, Assuradon, right, leading up into his son, Ashurbanipal. And this is sort of like the state of the world in relation to Israel at this time, right? The northern kingdom having been deported already from their land. And so here's where we're at. So with that, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kudash. And until next time, Shalom.